All right, today we're going to dive into a universe that exists inside every single living thing, and that includes you. We're talking about the bustling, microscopic city that is the cell, the absolute fundamental building block of all life. So let's get started. So let's kick things off with a little puzzle. Think about it. You've got a massive blue whale, a tiny mushroom popping up in a forest, and you, sitting right where you are. On the surface, you couldn't be more different, right? But what if I told you there's a deep, profound connection that links all of you at the most basic level? What could that possibly be? Well, the answer, the secret to life itself, really, is hiding in plain sight. It's inside a concept whose name literally means a small room. This is the invisible architecture that builds every single living thing on our planet. And that small room is, you guessed it, the cell. The name actually comes from the tiny, box-like rooms that monks lived in. And it fits because every organism is either one single cell or, like us, a massive colony of them. Each one is a buzzing, self-contained universe. And that simple idea, it's the foundation for all of biology. But we didn't figure this out overnight. It took centuries to piece this whole puzzle together. It all started way back in 1665, when a guy named Robert Hooke peered at a piece of cork and saw all these tiny boxes he called cells. Then you have to fast forward almost 200 years to 1839, when Schleiden and Schwann finally proposed that, hey, maybe all living things are made of these cells. And the final crucial piece came in 1855, when Rudolf Virchow declared that every cell has to come from another cell. And boom, you've got the cell theory. Okay, so we know what a cell is, but it turns out life isn't just built on one single blueprint. Instead, the living world is split into two vast empires, this huge, fundamental division that happened billions of years ago. On one side, you've got the prokaryotes. This is the simple blueprint. Think of it like a one-room workshop. Everything's just kind of floating around together. The DNA isn't locked up. There are no specialized compartments. Then on the other side, you've got the eukaryotes. This is the complex blueprint. This is like a massive, sprawling city with all these different neighborhoods and specialized buildings. It's got a secure central command center for its DNA, the nucleus, and tons of other little departments called organelles. Now, the prokaryotes, which include bacteria and archaea, these guys were the original inhabitants of Earth. They are the true masters of survival. Their simplicity is actually their greatest strength. It lets some of them, these so-called extremophiles, live in boiling hot springs or deep-sea vents, places where literally nothing else could survive. But for the rest of our time today, we're going to explore that other, more complex empire. We are going on a guided tour inside a eukaryotic cell, our very own cellular city. Let's go see the incredible machinery that makes you, well, you. All right, first stop on our tour is the most important landmark in the whole city, the nucleus. This thing is City Hall, the main library, and the central command center, all rolled into one heavily guarded building. So what's inside? This is where the cell keeps its chromosomes, the master DNA blueprints that contain every single instruction needed to build and run the entire city. It's all protected by a double-layered wall called the nuclear envelope, and it's from in here that all the orders are sent out to the city's factories. So once those orders are sent out from the command center, where do they go? Well, we're heading out into the city's noisy, bustling industrial zone, the endoplasmic reticulum, or ER for short, and the ribosomes. This is where the actual work gets done. So here's how this whole operation works. These tiny little dots, the ribosomes, are the assembly lines. They read the instructions sent from the nucleus and start building proteins. A lot of them are stuck to what we call the rough ER, this big network that helps make and ship those proteins. And right nearby, you've got the smooth ER, which handles other jobs, like making fats and storing stuff. Okay, so once all these proteins and fats are made, you can't just let them float around. That would be total chaos. They have to be sorted, packaged, and shipped to exactly the right address. For that, we're heading to the city's central post office, the Golgi apparatus. Think of the Golgi as the world's most efficient logistics hub. It receives the raw products from the ER, puts some finishing touches on them, and then packages them up into these little bubbles called vesicles. These are like the cell's delivery trucks, each one tagged with a specific destination, making sure every single package gets exactly where it needs to go. It's just an incredibly sophisticated system. Of course, none of this, not the building, not the shipping, none of it could run without energy. A city needs power, right? And for that, our cellular city has its very own power plants, the mighty mitochondria. These are the powerhouses churning out a molecule called ATP, the universal energy currency that fuels pretty much everything the cell does. But here's where it gets really wild. Mitochondria have their own separate DNA, and the evidence for this is overwhelming. They were once free-living bacteria that got swallowed by another ancient cell billions of years ago, and they just stayed. It means that, in a way, we are all chimeras, a fusion of two ancient life forms. How cool is that? Now, the city we've been touring is an animal cell, but that's not the only design out there in the eukaryotic empire. There's another major metropolis, the plant cell. It shares a lot of the same districts, but it has some really unique upgrades for a totally different way of life. Let's do a quick comparison. First off, plant cells have a super rigid outer cell wall. That's what gives plants their structure. It's like a city wall. They've also got chloroplasts, which are basically tiny solar power stations that perform photosynthesis. And finally, they have a massive central vacuole, which is like a giant water tower. These three things are the key differences, and they're why plant cells have that distinct fixed rectangular shape. So we've seen the architecture, but the real magic of the cell is that it's not some static museum. Oh no, this is a city that never, ever sleeps. It's always working, always building. Let's watch one of its most important jobs in action. So how does a blueprint actually become a building? It's a process called protein synthesis. First, inside the nucleus, our city hall, a process called transcription makes a temporary copy of a gene. This copy, called messenger RNA, then leaves the command center and heads out to a ribosome, the construction site. There, in a process called translation, the ribosome reads the instructions on the copy and builds a protein, piece by piece. It's amazing. It's how a plan becomes a reality. It really does all come back to this single, powerful idea from the cell theory. Every single thing an organism does, from the blinking of your eye to the growing of a giant tree, it's all just the result of trillions of cells doing their jobs in perfect coordination. And just to give you a sense of the sheer scale of this, let's talk numbers. Your body isn't just one thing. It's a massive, sprawling society made of about 30 trillion individual cellular cities, all working together. 30 trillion. It's a number that's almost impossible to comprehend. And that leaves us with one last kind of mind-bending question to think about. If your body is really a cooperative of 30 trillion tiny individual lives, each with its own job to do, what is it exactly that ties them all together to create the single conscious person that you call you?